Interest in Ashes of Creation has totally dropped off a cliff recently, and this is not surprising to me or honestly anybody with a little bit of foresight. A good chunk of this decline was already baked into the cake. Phase 2.5 was always going to be an enthusiast phase because it was a wipe right before another big confirmed wipe that is Phase 3 coming up here in early August. So even if everything went well this phase, a good chunk of people are already sitting out due to that, or are just not going to take the game super seriously because it's a wipe right before another wipe. However, I'm not going to candy coat it. July is going to be a rough month for Ashes of Creation. I just don't see how it wouldn't be for many factors. The first one, the big one, is the wipe right before another wipe. That's going to stop people from playing the game. But the economy, also extremely inflated. If you don't know, the economy was compromised due to hackers early on in the phase, speed hacking caravans. So everything, there's a ton of gold in the economy. Everything's super expensive. That element of the game is totally cooked right now. There's really no recovery other than the wipe coming up. Next thing, people don't really care about artisans right now, again, because of the wipe. Who's going to bother leveling up their crafting and harvesting and really taking that part so seriously when you just have to do it again? Same goes with the nodes. Do you really care about leveling up the nodes when you're just going to have to do it again? And the final big strike is the PvP. The lawless PvP zone was removed from the game, and PvP is the only really good game loop right now. Even if the economy's a little bit hosed, even if you don't care about crafting or gathering really, you can still throw hands, and it's still pretty fun. But they removed the lawless PvP zone, and due to the way war decks are and other factors in the game, there is effectively less PvP content in the game right now than there ever has been. And this is a 2x multiplier here because Phase 2.5 primarily appealed to PvP players. Who are the people that are going to play this short little phase that, is a wipe right before a wipe? PvP players, because PvP players don't really care if we're fighting in the Stone Age and nobody has any gear and we lose it all tomorrow. We still just want to PvP and throw hands. It doesn't really matter. We don't really care. And now that's not really a thing, so it's tough. And I honestly don't see them fixing the game in the month of July because I just don't think it's worth their time. I think they're primarily just buckling down, fixing bugs, and getting things ready for Phase 3. That's probably their best use of time. Does that mean the game's going to suck in the month of July? Probably. But that's just how it is sometimes. When you're testing these games, it's not always fun. It's not always exciting. But inevitably, when the game gets like this, when the testing gets like this, people always clamor. We need more communication. We need a roadmap. And boy, let me tell you, I have been doing YouTube for 15 years, and naturally, when you make videos about a game, the developers watch the videos and you become friendly with them. So I've got a little bit more insider knowledge than most people would have. And let me tell you, video game roadmaps are a total joke. They are never, and I mean never, even close to accurate. They are not even remotely accurate. The only time you can trust a video game roadmap is if the content is already made and they are drip feeding it to you. That is it. Any other roadmap you see is purely marketing. That's all it is. It's just meant to, I don't want to say deceive, but it's just meant for the people that don't know any better because they're never accurate. It's just a joke. It's honestly a fucking joke. It's a fool's errand. Roadmaps don't work in video games because people expect linear timelines and predictability, which is just not a thing when you're making software. People want a nice, clean progress bar. They want their loading bar to go up in small 1% intervals equally spaced out, and that does not happen when you're making software, particularly MMORPGs, because they're so complicated. You run into bottlenecks and quote-unquote blockers that will entirely halt your progress. I'm sure that Ashes of Creation has a lot of content that is locked behind some little thing that is preventing them from actually being able to put it in the game, and what that means in actuality is that there's some poor group of engineers slamming their head against this problem, desperately trying to figure it out. So people, they don't want a roadmap. They don't actually want a real, accurate roadmap because it would be infuriating. Think about how mad you get when you're doing like a Windows update and it just stalls out. It gets to like 47% and you're just sitting there and it hasn't moved in like 5 minutes and you're like, is it working? I would just like some form of life. Like, I don't mind waiting, but I would just like some form of progress, right? Like, Do I need to restart my PC? Did it freeze? Like, what's the deal? That's what video game development is. It's progress, and then you're just sitting there waiting, and you're like, what are we doing? Well, what's happening? And more infuriating, video game development is watching the progress bar get to 99%. You're almost there. You're so close. And then it goes back down to 70% because you have to refactor or redo something to actually get it to be able to get hooked up into the game. That's how it really is. And some people seem to think that making video games is this like nice, clean industry. I guess maybe because it's like more mainstream now and it's more like corporate. But that's just not the case, like, at all. Like, ever. All of the people that I've talked to that make these games, it's a fucking clusterfuck every time. Every single time, it is chaos. And you may be thinking, oh, that's only on the games that flop. That's only on the games that, look like Crowfall. No. I'm talking successful games. Games that you love, like The Witcher 3, was a total nightmare. A total disaster until the 11th hour, with people working 80-hour weeks to pull that plane out of the nosedive that it was in and get that thing working. That's how it is every time. And especially for MMORPGs, I can't believe that we give Ashes such a hard time, because what MMORPG do you know that has a smooth development? Every MMORPG in recent history that's had that we know anything about the development of has been in development hell, like flat out, like WildStar, Throne and Liberty, New World, the Riot MMO, like games that aren't even out, like the Riot MMO, can't even get it off the ground. Lord of the Rings MMO, they've restarted that like 3 times. Ghostcrawler's new MMO, people are not happy about that. These games are so messy, and even the market leader, World of Warcraft, has absolute disasters like Warlords of Draenor and Shadowlands. These guys have been the kings for what, 10, 15 years now? Surely they've got it figured out. They've got a system, right? No, they fucking shit the bed just as much as everybody else. So I don't think gamers actually can handle how the sausage is made. And this doubles up with communication. People don't actually want to hear. They want to hear good news. They don't want to hear what's actually happening, because the real answers are tough. Let me give you an example. I'm sure somebody's, what about the story arcs in Ashes of Creation? We saw this live stream showing off story arcs. Where are they? Like, what's the deal? The answer to that question, honestly, is probably this. Well, we've actually run into a brick wall implementing story arcs into our existing architecture, and we here at the studio are debating which religion and which god we should pray to, or if we should just threaten the family of the engineer working on it. We're not sure which direction we should go. Should we pray, or should we threaten the family of the engineer if he doesn't figure this out? That's probably the answer. There's probably some little thing that is halting all the progress on getting that system hooked up, and that is just the reality of making software. The other thing people aren't ready to hear is that inevitably certain things aren't going to make it into the game. Certain ideas aren't going to work. They're going to have to get pivoted. I personally expect that the node system is probably going to have to pivot in some way to make more people care about it. A lot of players, myself included, don't find it interesting. They are not personally invested in Mirrorleth. I don't care if Mirrorleth burns to the ground. I don't even really care that much about the node that my guild has the mayorship of. I don't know. I just don't care about this system a lot, and I know I'm not alone. So inevitably, they're probably going to have to pivot this or change this in a way to make it work. And they're also going to have to cut content. Maybe that thing you're really excited for, the stock market system, probably not going to make it in the game. There's going to be probably entire zones that don't make it into the game. When Ashes of Creation or any game is still in its conceptual phase, the skies are all blue. The weather is gorgeous. Anything is possible. And then reality hits. That's just how it works, man. So Ashes of Creation is doing open development, which has some pretty serious downsides. The month of July is going to be full of people leaving terrible comments. Oh, scam MMO, dead before release, whatever. People are going to leave all sorts of crazy comments this month, I'm sure. But there's some really big upsides to doing open development as well. The number one biggest benefit of doing an open development is that you get earned media. People are really unaware of how much video games spend on marketing. Many times, a game will spend considerably more money marketing the game than they do actually developing the game. Let me give you a crazy example. In 2009, the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, a successful game from a very successful video game franchise, especially back then, they spent $40 million making the game. And they spent $160 million marketing the game in 2009. $40 million to make it, $160 million to market it in 2009. And this is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 coming off the back of the original COD 4, a hyper-successful game, a hyper-successful franchise, and they are still spending $160 million, 4x the development budget to market the game. When you do an open development, it gives you a lot of opportunity to have earned media moments that are worth millions of dollars. The Lazy Peon, Asmongold, Pirate Software, these people, no lie, have contributed to millions and millions of dollars in earned media marketing. And even the smaller content creators give lots of earned media marketing, word of mouth. This kind of stuff, guys, is more valuable than you can even imagine. And when it's organic, it is far, far more powerful. Next huge benefit to open development is it makes getting additional investors easier. Now, we all know Steven Sharif, self-funding the game, whatever. I would like to know how they're financing this thing, because generally rich people don't keep their money in liquid assets. He'll never tell me. But I'm really interested in the nuts and bolts of how he's particularly doing things. But if he was to need to get additional funding, it would be very easy for him to do it when you have an open development, because you have a core consumer group. You can look at the investors and say, hey, I have thousands of people that have given me tens of thousands of dollars, some of them each. When you have a proven customer base and there's proven demand, it's much easier to get investors. And the final big thing is that it allows you to pivot and experiment with things. Inevitably, some of your ideas or game systems are not going to work in reality as well as they worked out in your head. And when you have open development, it allows you to see very quickly, like, oh, this isn't going to work. Or, oh, this is actually something that the players are really enjoying. Let's double down on this. And sometimes they stumble into things that are actually really fun. And like, oh, wait, we never thought about doing it like this. But we're actually going to do it like this now because we see the players are really enjoying it, even though that was never our intention. You get a lot of stuff like that you just don't get when you develop the game in silence, and you just kind of hope it works. So, pros and cons. Some serious pros, some serious cons, for sure. However, I am still very optimistic about Ashes of Creation for one primary reason, and that is that they are doing the hard things first, and they are doing them right. They are doing the things like movement, animations, feedback. The general feel of the game is fantastic. The game is fun to play. Most people that play Ashes of Creation, that have gotten in and played it, they think the game is fun to play. Now, they may want other ways to play it. They may want more reasons to play it, but they think the game is fun to play. They just want reasons to play it, or they want to play it in a different way. They don't have problems with the core animations, movement, gameplay, things like that. Whenever I talk to the developers of this game, they are actual gamers, actual MMORPG players. As crazy as it sounds, that is not the feeling I get when I've talked to other MMO developers. In fact, in the case of New World, I don't think they actually play video games. I don't think the people that are in charge of New World have ever played a video game in their life. The people that play Ashes of Creation are degen MMO players. They are gamers. You cannot look at the rogue and the way that's designed. Like, clearly a gamer made that class. It is a crazy class. So I think the Ashes of Creation developers, quote unquote, get it. I think they really do get it. Now, that is half the battle. The other half of the battle is execution. You can have a bunch of people that have a great idea and they understand what people want, but can they actually do it? And I'm still optimistic. It's not perfect, but I like that they're doing the hard things right, the hard things first. And the biggest criticisms of Ashes of Creation, I think, are things that are largely fixable. Heck, a lot of the things people complain about are like tuning, like numbers in a database. This is not a Chrono Odyssey situation. Chrono Odyssey right now, hot on the news right now because people don't like the game. And they don't like the game for the worst reasons. The combat is bad. The game performs badly. The movement is bad. The lighting is bad. The animations are bad. People are complaining about things that are hard to fix, and the game is going to be releasing relatively soon. They cannot fix that stuff quickly. Those are all things that are very, very difficult. A common complaint about Ashes of Creation is the corruption system is stupid and dropping gear is stupid. That's something that can be fixed. Like, that is something that can be fixed. Having better in-game loops and rewards, that is something that can be fixed. That is not redoing the animations of the game. That is not redoing the movement, the combat controller. That is not, like, that stuff. That the mountains that Chrono Odyssey has to go over are much steeper and much larger than the mountains that Ashes of Creation has to go over. I don't know, man. I'm willing to give Ashes of Creation a lot more grace than a lot of people are, because I genuinely think the game is in a much better spot than many other MMOs were in this same period.